Hey everyone, welcome to the tech capital of the world. My name is Bobby Davis, CEO and founder of Foundry. And Kevin, we're going to talk about maybe your projects suck, maybe that's a harsh title we put out there, but
Yeah, I almost made a worse card that was like, your projects suck, right? Or something
your
like, it was
projects
really
suck.
just like, yeah, I'm trying to make something clickbait, but I was like, no, that's too harsh. Because I was like, well, on the card, your face is on it. So I was like, that's like you're saying it. So like, you're not that mean. So if my face was on it, I'd say it because I'm meaner. So I would have said.
But I will say this, though, before people get offended by what we're going to talk about today, if I tell you it sucks, it means that I want you to get a job. So like,
yeah, it's not from a point of like making fun or being, that's not, that's definitely not.
The second thing about negative advice a lot of times is people, I read an article today about why boot camps don't work. And he wrote this whole thing about this sucks. And the first question was, well, how do you learn to code again? And he's like, you just have to learn. It's like it's like this craziness.
Oh, it's magic.
Will point out wrongness into something, but never give them the actual how do we fix it? How do we solution?
Yeah.
What
This is the thing. It's easy to be a critic, right? It's easy to do something negatively. It's very easy to say like, it is easy to say like, oh, like a movie critic. It's easy to say like, that was terrible. This was bad. This was bad. But then you ask like, how would you make it different? Well, that's I don't know. Like
I don't know.
I don't know. It just sucks.
I see that all the time where there's like, well, it's not my criticisms aren't valid. I can make these suggestions. I'm like, a lot of times you need to come up with the solution. So we're going to talk about like why these projects are bad, so you can understand why we say they suck. Because here's our criteria for a good project. Is it good enough to get you a job? Will it convert into an offer for employment? And what I want you to understand here at Foundry, that's all we care about. Like, it's just like, we do want to teach you how to code, but we want you to learn how to code and build projects that can get you an interview. And then you can win with. So here's the common misconception of boot camps, I think courses and college and everything in general is that tech influencers and societies tell you, just learn to code. The skills are down here. Anyone can do it. And then when you add in something like AI, oh, now ChatGPT is available, Kevin. I don't need to know anything. It's like way the bar is super low. And so that causes engagement on social media, and it causes people to think, I don't have to know how to do anything to get this job. Here's the truth. If you ever interview at Foundry to come into our boot camp, and we don't let everyone in, but we know, because we try to get people jobs, that the skills are kind of up in here in this range. Therefore, if you're building projects under this thing and you're building these simple projects we're going to talk about, they don't convert because we've seen them not convert. We've seen students try to not pass Foundry, build just a little bit of stuff, go interview, and then fail because the skills, really what society wants, not really what employers want, is up here for juniors. And people say no one hires juniors. I'm like, that's because you're down here.
Exactly. Because
you think you know the blink tag, and therefore that's enough to know, or you can write a prompt in ChatGPT, that's enough to know. It's not. So what we want to do is give you a healthy dose of realistically, what does it take? And then you can plan your learning around that. Now, here's the good part. It is knowable. It is doable from all walks of people and all walks of life. You can do it. Just adjust your sights to what my end goal is going to be. And we're just going to talk about some of those projects.
Exactly. No, I think you made a good point that people expect, and some people will influencers will tell people that the bar is down here. That's the problem.
Right.
We have people who are experienced, but they know very, very well it's not. And we'll talk about why they say that in a second, because we'll see other people that'll say like,
oh, why they say it.
We know why they say it, but they'll say that it's down here because it's like fulfilling for them to be able to, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But
the other thing that I don't like about, and then this is, if we're friends and you're an influencer and we've talked before on social media, know that like, if you're out there doing a good job, this is not what I'm talking about, but there's a lot of people out there that are repping learn to code, but they don't know how to code at all. Like, or they don't do the job at all.
Bad ads on YouTube
whatsoever. And like, they're just in there for the YouTube game, which is like, that's great, but you can't listen to their advice because it doesn't come from a place of expertise. Like, in other words, like, ask that YouTube influencer, how many times have you taken a resume, a portfolio, and a project, called a company and said, hire this person, then get feedback and they say you yes or no, and you figure out why they didn't, and then adjust your course accordingly. And I would tell you that we're in the minority of that, because like I'm talking to employers, like, I'm one of the few people that I think, and this is not toot my own horn, okay? So don't think I'm just arrogant, but
should have me say this.
Comes from like working all the time, like, you know, talking to companies like, so what are you looking for? You know, and then I'll say, so look at this resume here, look at this portfolio here, what do you think? And I've seen people go, wow, okay, that's great. That's cool. That moves the needle. Yeah. And then the student goes and interviews, they get turned down. And what every student here at Coder Foundry, the sound of my voice knows, if you say you got turned down, I'll say, what did they ask you? And if you don't know, then you did something wrong. Like, you can't correct it until you know what they asked. Like, you know, so tell me what they asked you so that we can correct that. So the next time you go out and interview, you get better. And a lot of people think that no one hires junior because they got turned down once, or they don't get any interview requests. And I can tell you why people don't get interview requests. We're going to talk about that specifically, what this problem is.
Definitely. First thing though, here's what we're not going to do.
Yeah.
This is one thing we talked about.
Nope.
We're not going to show people's portfolios that we think are bad. I'm not saying that yours is. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
But I know you're thinking now. But we're not going to do that. We didn't want to pick on specific like. We want to talk about it in general and talk about the kind of general apps and the things that do work and things that don't work. We want to talk about it just more generally.
Popping the drinks early, Kevin. Sorry.
What do you got there? What is that? It's like a monster or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to just talk about it more general than more specific, because we thought about, well, we could show some apps, and I was like, no, that's really just like, that's just picking on somebody. We don't want to pick on somebody,
right? Even
though, you know, because we don't want to offend somebody. That's the thing too. We don't want to. Right. You know, you can take offense by what we're going to say, but we're not going to specifically call you out as, like, you know.
Yeah.
There are,
so it's easy.
We've looked at plenty of bad projects.
Easy to tear someone down. It's really hard to uplift someone to the position to where up here where they can get it. That's what we aspire to do at Coder Foundry. Is more uplift you, train you in the things you need to know, and not tell you necessarily what you want to hear, what everyone else is telling you. And so, like, what everyone's going to tell you is that this is super easy. A lot of influencers is. It doesn't matter what you learn. It doesn't matter what projects you build. Just be passionate about it.
Yeah,
and I'm telling
that's
you,
one thing. Passionate about it. Just be passionate about it. That's enough.
It's like, and I promise I'll get comments about this. Like, well, dude, if I don't build a passionate project, I'm not going to do it. And then I'm thinking the whole time, well, maybe you don't like coding. I mean, you know, and I just
building
read
your passion
a Reddit
project
post
on the job
here, like, just to now, the one guy saying, you know, like, trust me on this one. This is a Reddit post. Trust me on this one. Everyone is impressed by games, even simple games. Just make sure it's polished and it's a labor of love. And I'm telling you right now, unless you're interviewing for a gaming company, it doesn't matter.
And if you are interviewing for a gaming company,
that's detrimental.
Right. And if you are interviewing for a gaming company, that'd be good.
For a gaming company, and you're still showing tic-tac-toe, you're not getting hired. You need to. My advice would hold for this. You need to probably build some kind of FPS clone or some kind of RPG or some kind of MMO where you implemented a lot of the features. It doesn't have to be that 10 million people using it, but you have to show that you can do parts of this job, you know, whatever the job is that you're interviewing for.
You have to get the mechanic better than tic-tac-toe, right? That's the thing. You have to get something better than the basic mechanic of a snake game.
Yeah, and so snake game, if it's not going to win at a gaming interview, why would you think it would win at a mortgage company?
Right.
You know, and that's my point.
So let's just name check some of these ones. Let's just name check some of these ones then. So things like, and somebody even, I mean, Mike even called it out here as one of them. I know we pick on this a lot, but this is one. So things like Pokedex, Snake Game, Tic-Tac-Toe are three really common ones that we see. We see those a lot.
And I've seen some other ones out there, Magic the Gathering, which is cool. I'm familiar with Magic the Gathering, believe it or not. And, you know, but here's where this comes from. People are trying to implement APIs into a project, and they pick an API that they like, and then they implement the project. And you're supposed to think, okay, what I'm really showing them is how to implement an API, not necessarily Pokédex. The problem is the interviewer can't get past what you built. Right. And so, like, when they can't get past what you built, they're never going to discuss, like, well, how did you do that? Like, in other words, they're thinking, like, okay, that's dumb. I mean, like, what is my 8-year-old plays Pokemon? Like, why are you messing with Pokemon? Like, what are you doing? Like, and it doesn't mean that Pokemon's not a great game. It doesn't mean adults don't play it. They do. I mean, like, it's fine. It just doesn't show well enough to where it's the topic that is the problem, not necessarily what you did. So you could do something way more cooler that's way more serious by doing the exact same project. And we've seen this. And here's an API project that we do like that we don't have in our learn.coder platform is cryptocurrency trading. We liked that project where we could show, you could pull it back and look at the prices of Bitcoin, and then you could like map it, and then you could look at histories or something like that, like and things like that. Not that we're into crypto, it's just a different type of project, and so they don't look at it as a toy project necessarily. They're like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. Okay, so Bitcoin is down right now. That's interesting, so it's more financial, it's more business based, it's more things like that. So our primary promise is this: we're going to tell you what projects you shouldn't build, but we're also not saying that you don't build them.
Right. I think that's the takeaway here. We're saying your projects suck, but you should build them. You should build tic-tac-toe. You probably should build a snake game. You should build Fizzbuzz. You should build all these other things that are seen as simplistic as a learning exercise, right?
But it can't be your showcase project.
Exactly. It's not going to be
the thing
that gets you a job.
So what people do is they build snake game, and then that's the project on the portfolio.
Well, because it's impressive, isn't it?
The pinnacle of my knowledge, the pinnacle of my work. I'm going to show it to you. And here's what happens. We get two no's in the marketplace. One's a passive no, and one's an active no. Let's look at the passive no. The passive no happens when you share your portfolio on LinkedIn or Twitter. You send it out at a job request. Maybe there's an interview and saying, hey, I would love to interview the job. Here's my portfolio. Please consider me for the role. They look at the portfolio and you don't get a call back. You get passed over, and those are passive no's. Now, the passive no's take place a lot when your apps are published because you don't know who's necessarily looking at them. Very few developers are chasing analytics on their portfolio. I'm like, who looked at this? Let me go find out who that was. That would be cool. But and so what it is, they just look at it right off the bat, and if the first project is Pokédex, they swipe off of it. They don't look at it anymore. That's called the passive no. In other words, your portfolio doesn't resonate with the employer. And so now what I want you to think about, instead of building something passionate, something you're passionate about, build something that resonates with the employer, build something that the employer is passionate about, see the difference? If you're passionate about Pokemon and they're not, they're like, okay, well, you can go do Pokemon somewhere else on your own time, and I know that sounds harsh, but that's kind of what happens. It's called a passive no. All right. But let's say that you get through it and you get all the way to the active interview, and then you demo Pokédex. You better be selling the API really hard. It's really difficult to take that project and upscale it to a mortgage company or a company that's moving lumber at, a Lowe's Hardware or Home Depot or something like that.
Well, you got to remember your audience too, right? So you're trying to upscale it to an audience who is a developer, right? So while your Pokemon app may have been impressive to your spouse or your kids or your mom or whoever you show it to, right? Your buddy, you're like, wow, I built this thing. Like, wow, that's cool. That looks great. I love it. It's less impressive to somebody who understands what you've actually done with it. Like it's not as impressive, right? It's less, doesn't have all the features that it should have. It hasn't he's like, oh, I've seen 15 of these this week. Like I see these all the time. Yeah. Everybody makes one of these. It's just not as impressive. So your audience matters.
Yeah, it does matter. So stay away from, I think, unless you're interviewing for games, stay away from game apps in general. Don't put them on there, and then try to build business focused apps. So here at Coder Foundry, we do build about 6 or 7. If you go through the self-paced course or you're coming in through the in-person, we build some really small apps. We build a Fizzbuzz. Yeah, we build reverse a string, and then we take that and build a palindrome checker, The reason we do that is because a lot of times people ask those during interviews, But even in our JavaScript course, if you go all the way to the end of it, our last and final, one of the bigger ones is mortgage calculator, which mortgage calculator allows you to calculate a simple interest loan. You can put in the months, you can put in the interest rate, and then it calculates the amortization schedule, which is just the payments running out. So whether you have a house payment, car payment, or whatever. So the reason we do that is because it resonates with everyone interviewing, meaning they probably have a car payment, they probably have a mortgage payment, or maybe they do those types of calculations in there. The other thing is, at first glance, it doesn't seem like it's a real easy problem to solve. From a developer, developer's looking at it and like, oh, so you calculated simple interest. So what's the equation for that?
Right.
Boom.
Yeah. Now you're talking about your app.
Now you can show them the code, and now you can bring them in. And that's our simple project. That's the simple one that comes in, and I've seen people win jobs based on the mortgage calculator because the company did financial type transactions, and they want to know like, oh, so you did the math for that. Oh, you can calculate the balance or running balance. And people think, oh, that's easy. Yeah. Okay. Well, how many of in here, what listen to my voice, know the simple interest payment calculation? What's the math for that?
Right.
It's not super simple. I mean,
nobody knows off the top of their head. Surely.
I mean, we're not talking about cold fusion here, but like, it's, at the same time, you'd have to Google it probably.
Yeah. It's something you generally don't remember.
Your developer that we interview in it probably doesn't have that memorized either, unless they are running mortgage calcs, and maybe that's just drilled into his head. But like in general, he could say, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That's neat. So we want to build projects that are business focused, that solve business type problems, where the employer resonates with the project and they can imagine you in the role that they're hiring for. When they see tic-tac-toe, it doesn't do that. They don't imagine that, oh, you could do the types of things we're doing. No, you look like you want to be a game developer. Why don't you interview for a game job? Why are you here for the business job? So that's the types of problems with it. That it doesn't get you more interview requests because you get a lot of passive no's, and then it doesn't show well during the active interview process. Because you just can't win with projects like that. It's really difficult to win like that. Now, you're probably thinking, why is my advice better than probably 90% of the course you're creating on the market?
I was going to say, like, 90% of the courses out there, this is what they teach.
Yeah. And so here's the cynical view of this. And let's go ahead and put the cynical view for everyone out there. And like, okay, you're just trying to sell your course because yours is different than everyone else's, Coder Foundry, you're self-serving. And yeah, I want everyone to take my course, but the reason we build the course the way it is because it's outcome focused. You have to understand, I'm building a product based on an outcome and reverse engineering the course. Most of the course creators out there are building something that's easy to build, easy to record, and easy to teach.
Right, and then you come out of the course out there. And then you come out of the course having taken it,
feeling great.
And like, man, I'm awesome. I built tic-tac-toe from that course, and it was epic. I spent 6 hours doing it, and I have tic-tac-toe, and it's amazing. What it won't do, though, is...
the course creator went and applied for a job and tried to win a job based on the app that he just showed you. Yeah. No. Here's the two common things, and I'm not going to like tear down any specific course creator. You can do whatever you want. You can take 20 different courses out there. You can come to learn Coder Foundry or not. Here's the thing that you want to think about when you're evaluating, does the course work? First off, when you start, you got to build easy stuff. Our course does start off easy, okay? Yeah. You have to learn somewhere, some way. So we can't jump into building a bug tracker the first day you're trying to do it. Now, we see people come to the self-paced course here at Coder Foundry, and they'll ask me, can I skip all this stuff and go straight to the end? I'm like, well, how much do you know? Nothing. No. So they want to shortcut the process by not doing the easy stuff to build skills and build fundamentals to begin with. But at the end of the day, you got to think to yourself, okay, what am I going to market with? When I go show my portfolio to somebody, am I going to wow them with my project or underwhelm them with my project? And know that we think the skills are a lot higher than what tech influencers kind of say. It's more difficult to build some of these things than do it. So I think that a lot of the creators out there, when they're building courses, they couldn't build the types of projects that we're building. In fact, we've had people said, can I copy your projects and put them on a course? And the answer is no.
Well, I think because a lot of times what happens is somebody will learn to code, they'll go get a job, and then they'll be like, you know what, I actually like making content more, so now I need to make a course. And they'll have had a single job, and now they'll go make a course, which you can do. I think that's fine.
You can do it. You can do it.
It's great because you're just teaching people to learn to code. That's all. Yeah, and that's a different endeavor than what we're going for. We're not going for this. We don't want to teach you to learn to code. We want to teach you to get a job. It's two different things.
Two different things.
It's like learning to code is a byproduct of the learning to get a job part. That's why all of our stuff is focused on these high-level projects, and we talk about like interviewing skills and those kind of things. That's why we do that. We're the kind of get a job, learn to code people, not just the learn to code for academic purposes, which is fine. Right. Yeah, that's fine.
So you can take a Udemy course and learn a lot. okay? But can you translate that into an artifact that you can show someone to get a job with? And the answer is usually no. You got to build something else. So here's our criteria is, number one, it's got to solve a business problem that resonates with the employer. Now, does that mean you have to build a project per job that you interview for? No. There are some archetypes that cover all of the employer that they can look at and say, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, this is why to this day, the bug tracker is still the best project that you could build, because it covers all of those bases, not because our project is great. It's because it resonates with the employer, solves a business problem. But here's the other thing about it. Someone will always ask, and probably got questions, I haven't seen all the questions yet, and we'll answer them in a second, is can I build the business problem ABC? And I always have to go like, is it recognizable? No, it's something in my head. I made it up, but it does all these cool kind of things. Here's the problem with a business app that doesn't make sense, is that they think that that idea is dumb and they can't get past it.
Yeah, so not even necessarily dumb, but they don't fully understand the idea.
They don't understand it. Like, you know, like, I don't.
You spend 5 minutes explaining the intent of your application.
Right. So here's what I mean by resonate with the employer. Think about this. You're interviewing with a tech lead, okay? And he's a coder, and he's coding, 40 hours a week. He's coding really hard, and you show him an app. He's automatically trying to figure out how it works. That's what we do as developers. We look at it, we look at trees on the sidewalk. And we're like, what's the system that could grow trees? Like that's how we think about like how do we code something. That's why we get so many apps that are built out, because everyone's trying to build an app. So if they can't understand your concept, they'll never get past that to interview you for the job. I'm telling you right now, we're wired different the way we think. And I've been in interviews where, you show or trying to pitch a project to somebody, and I realize I've lost when I've been talking to him for about 50 minutes, and then he'll come back and he'll go, so back to that thing you said about 40, and I realized right away that I lost them from the open. Like, in other words, like there's a shade
mine never moved on
understanding that they just don't get past. Yeah. And it doesn't matter how good, great, fantastic I am. Great speaker, told lots of jokes. From the first second that they come in, they're like, they didn't understand something. And that's what happens with things like, I interviewed a guy one day, and he says, what if I had he wanted to go rock climbing. So he needed a dating app for rock climbers. And I've called it, since then, I've made fun of it, called Tinder for rock climbers. And I remember when he told me about it, and he was showing it to me, and he was coming into Foundry. I can remember, this is where this advice comes from, because I was looking at like, why in the heck would you ever do that? Like, why wouldn't you just go to the rock climbing place and make friends? I mean, don't you
get past the idea of the app?
I just couldn't get past it. Like, are you worried about climbing rocks with complete strangers who may cut the wire and you die? I mean, it's like I couldn't get past but I just thought it was a crazy idea. And why would you go hiking Appalachian Trail with a complete stranger? I mean, it just seems dangerous.
Is that not asking for trouble? Has anybody not? Has anyone not watched that hitchhiking thing on Netflix?
So I didn't understand maybe the community that rock climbers and hikers have, because I'm not a rock climber and I'm not climbing, and that's the point that I'm trying to make. Is we never got to the point of how you built the app. It was just a constant discussion around where he had to defend his idea. And I couldn't get over it. And that's what happens in interviews.
Right.
Now, nice interviews will look at something like this, and they got that poker face. They'll look at your app and they'll go, in their mind is that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. So,
right, but they'll
tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, right. No,
but their mind is still going like this.
Exactly. Exactly. Like on the front of it, they'll look past it, but in their mind, you're right. Even after the interview, they've already had that initial impression, and they're like, I don't like that. And regardless of you're right, regardless of how good it is,
and
how
he walks out of the
savvy
room,
it is.
His buddies are coming around. He goes, "So how'd that go?" He goes, "Man, that app was just dumb." I mean, and so what happens is they don't focus on you as the coder. So here's what you have to do: you have to build an app that they understand as soon as they see it. And this is why a bug tracker works, because they use one, and so immediately they automatically understand it. So you don't have to just tell them how it works or what it does. You say, hey, I built a bug tracker. And they're like, oh, okay, that's neat. Well, cool. Yeah. So how did you handle, and boom, You're automatically in, how did you do this? What did you build? How did you solve this particular problem? Because these bug trackers come with these same kind of problem sets that it needs to have. And you win that way. Because then what you've done is you've piqued the curiosity of the developer that you're interviewing with to look at your project. And if you can demo a project during an interview, you're more likely to win than lose. You increase your chances. I'm not saying it's 100%. Some people have demoed and failed. But I can tell you, in the last couple of weeks, I've had 2 people reach out to me on LinkedIn. And they said, hey, man, just thank you for the course. I built Contact Pro. I showed it during the interview and I won. Now, here's what's crazy. I want to tell you, someone built our Contact Pro app, but they rewrote it in React, and we teach it in .NET. And he won a React job, which reinforced what I've been saying for a long time is,
but it's the idea.
Learn a stack, interview for the stack, and build a business project and show the business project in the stack that you've learned and that matches the employer, and you'll win. That's how this is not magic, you know? So like trying to like do something out of that realm makes it just your interview process longer. You lose more interviews than you win, and therefore you don't break in. So like what we see time and time again, when people say, I can't find a job, we look at their portfolio, it's the same thing, isn't it, Kevin?
Always. It's always the same.
Always
we get comments all the time. I'll get YouTube comments and they'll be like, yeah, this advice is terrible. I've interviewed 500 times and I still haven't got a job. And my question every single time is, link your portfolio, we'll take a look. They either don't because they don't have one, or they link it and it's got...
And we go, yep.
And it's got tic-tac-toe in it. Or we've seen things that are even simpler than that. We see things through courses where it's tic-tac-toe and Snake Game or whatever it is, where you build these things and they put those on a portfolio. That's one thing. We've seen other things where it's just like a page with a form on it. And like, that's the pinnacle of your work. Like, and then you wonder why you don't get a job. Like, the
contact form saves to a database. You're like, okay.
Dude, the contact form's like a tiny part of something else. That can't be your thing. That can't be
I've also seen some boot camps and some courses, the pinnacle is a to-do list. And you'll see like at the top of the page, a single line edit and then a button. And you can type it in and you can hit the button and it adds a row, and you can add another one, adds another row. And it does save to a database. But again, that doesn't solve any kind of business problem whatsoever.
It's too simplistic.
You know,
too simplistic. Here you go, look in chat. Katazak here said demo contact pro.
That must be Bart. Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go. Look at Bart in the suit, man. Looking sweet there, man. All right, Bart. He's got the sideways photo too, like like how that's how they do it.
Like I'm not looking at the camera. I know it's over there. I know it's there. It's doing its thing. I know I'm gonna get a photo. I look cool. Like I'm gonna look over
I look cool. I look cool. I don't look at the camera anymore. I'm too good. So, no, but I talked to Bart briefly, and he's great. I had another guy, the same kind of thing. Both of them, I'm telling you guys, they show Contact Pro coming right out of our .NET 6 course, and they get a job. And there's a reason why, and Bart probably knows, is number one, it solves a recognizable business problem all the way. It's an address book.
An address book.
Okay. We took address book and we made a little bit of extra features in and around it. The second thing is it looks good visually when you see it the first off the bat. You're like, wow, okay, that's kind of slick. That's kind of neat. That looks like an address book. It's not chintzy. It's put together well. It's designed well. But it also has a database and also has authorization authentication, which means that you could log in with Bart's app and make your own list of address books. So you have this multi-tenant type thing in it, and that's a little bit more complicated than a single use address book for all people for all time, and there's no separation between logins. So that's kind of what we think. It's got to have a database, solve a business problem, hit auth and security, and then you have a winner project. So what could we do in that? We think Bug Tracker is the best one because it does all that. Plus, you got to manage tickets. Plus, you got to manage projects. It's just more and more CRUD screens, but it's a more involved project, and it looks really impressive when you're said and done. The other thing that our Contact Pro does is allows you to email an individual contact or send a group email. Kind of cool.
It's another feature.
Yes, you can do it with Outlook. Yes, you could do it with Outlook. Yes, you could do it with other things, but it's kind of cool.
You implemented it as a feature. That's the thing. You can say, I made this decision to implement it as a feature, and I built it out.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's got a search feature where you can find the contact you want, and that kind of stuff. A built-in email client in it where you can send emails out to each other. It's pretty cool. So like our thought process was, and this is what I think that is unique about Contact Pro, is what if you collected addresses and contacts for your wedding, right? And so you've got the wedding list, boom, 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 boom here. And then that one contact could be your brother, who could be in other lists. And that was another kind of complex thing inside of Contact Pro, was like the one contact could belong to many different lists. And then you could take that list and just email the list. Hey, the wedding date was Saturday, but the wife got sick. We're doing it next Saturday, like, so don't show up to the church, like come next week, and make sure that everyone knows about it, so probably call in anyway, but like, the same kind of thing. So that's kind of what it does. And it's cool because it is, at first glance, it looks simple, and then you drill into it, and there's a lot of things to talk about, like how you did that. Right. How does the models work behind it? How's the database configured? And people know that that's a little bit better than a to-do list. It's definitely better than tic-tac-toe. It takes a lot more skill to build that than it does snake game.
And your audience recognizes that.
Yeah, and you could talk about the path founding algorithm in snake game. I get it. You can talk all day you want about that, but if they're not interested in that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't move the needle in an interview because it doesn't resonate with the employer. And we want to build something that resonates. This is like classic sales 101. If I'm trying to sell you something, I want to show you the thing that you want. I don't want to show you the thing that you don't and try to convince you need it. Right. It's so much easier to show you the thing that you want. It's easy to sell at that point. Yeah. But trying to show you something you don't want or didn't know you had, then you've got to really sell them on that concept or whatever. And that's what happens when you come in looking for a car and you want a certain car in a certain color, and then that model's not there. Yeah. And then, if you walk in, you want a F-150, and they're like, yeah, we don't have any, but we've got this Ford Escape over here. It's like, nah, I'm out. Nah, come on, man. I'll give you a great deal on it, and it's in the color you like. Come on, Kevin. Let's drive it around. No, I don't think so. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to force fit them into buying something that they're not looking for.
It's just a way harder sell, isn't it? It's just harder.
A way harder sell. You have to be really good at selling yourself. And so your projects are probably too weak if you're having problems. That's just what it is. And so, again, I'll reiterate, it must solve a business problem, it must use a database, and it must implement security. That for web. That's the three things that it kind of must have to do. Yep. And then inside of security, I mean authorization, logging in, or authentication, logging in, authorization, giving them permission to do something once you're logged in.
Oh, which is in our too. In that same realm, if you've got it live too, demo logins. We talked about this a ton on this channel. Demo logins for the win. Like no hiring managers. Exactly. No hiring manager is going to register for your app. They're just not. So don't put it.
The other thing too, we see a common mistake we see is you'll have projects, but they're only in GitHub and they're not published, and therefore they don't look at them. Soft no. Imagine the convenience factor. I'm looking at 50 resumes. The first one to come across doesn't have links. The second one does, and they're easily, you click on the link, it comes up. There's a demo login. I don't even have to register. Boom, I'm in the app in like 2 clicks. That person is getting the callback. The other person got swiped on. They're not looking at it.
And trust me, there's some of you out here now that are just like, duh, of course, published. But trust me, we've seen lots.
No, it's not obvious.
It might seem obvious to you. Trust me, it doesn't seem obvious to a lot of people because we see a lot of it. So yeah. Yep. Okay, you want to do some questions, some comments here?
Yeah.
So I know
that helps somebody.
I know Lawson was here early with this one, so we're gonna put this one up here.
Yeah.
So do you ever get stuck? Do you ever still get stuck building something? If so, and docs are lacking, what do you do? Or do you just stick with things you already know inside out?
So stuck building something.
Part of the job.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know exactly what I'm going to assume what he means because we could go a bunch of ways on this. Okay. So do I stick with things I already know inside and out with languages and things I know how to build with? Sometimes, yeah. If I'm building something and I've got to do it today, I'm going to build it with things I already know how to do. Sometimes I want to learn something new, so I'm building something I already know how to do with the new tool. All right. So if you're talking about a language, stuck building something with a new language, and the docs are lacking, that can be a problem. All right. So you got a lot of research, a lot of R&D. That's especially true in our realm is when .NET 7 comes out or .NET 8 is getting ready to come out next year. There are no docs really on that. Microsoft gives little tidbits. You have to just kind of jump in there and use it and see what happens. But if you're talking about projects which are language independent, like I'm building something, I don't get stuck on those things. I go back and problem solve. Like, what am I trying to do? I always ask myself, and I'll try to pseudocode it out and say, okay, these are the steps I need to do in order to do that. And if I get stuck on a particular thing, how do I do this in JavaScript? Now I can Google that part of it, or and if I know how to do this in C#, I can Google that part. I think a lot of people try to Google in the macro instead of the micro.
Right.
Which is what I think is wrong with ChatGPT in general. Like, where people are trying to I'm going to specify the whole system in this text.
Build me a social media application, ChatGPT, and it's like, whoa, okay,
right.
I don't know what that is, but sure, here you go.
Let me get after that, And so you need to break it down into the smallest part that you have. And then if you're talking about a tooling or a language, and say you're trying to do the cutting edge language that's just out, sometimes it can be difficult, because no one tells you how it works. And so you have to try things and stay with it. But if it's a problem, keep breaking it down to the smallest component to figure out where your knowledge starts and where does it end, and then start going with resources about that problem in the general, not necessarily specifically, I'm trying to build a social media app. It may be something about database connectors or some kind of query that you're trying to write. I don't know how to filter this query or something like that. So you can Google that micro problem and then implement it in your solution. So I hope that helps.
Cool. Let's just say, what's Ben say? Ben says, one of the things I love about you build and teach how to build awesome projects. It's a deep grief in my experience for JS devs building projects. They are not comprehensive enough. Yeah, it's probably true, Ben. That's what we think. It's you have to raise your game a little bit. So if you're, and what I want to do if you're a JS dev out there right now and you're like, okay, my projects suck, what do I do? Take what you know and scale them up until you can get to the level we're talking about. Because up here is what's necessary to get a job. Just know that that's your target, so and then build something, show something in an interview, and it's got to be a business project. It's got to hit a database. So that means if you're a JS dev, and you don't want to use backend C#, ASP.NET, or backend Java, then Node is in your future. That's what you're going to be doing. Node and Next. I mean, that's in your future. So even if you're learning React, just know you're going to have backend components to do the types of things that I'm talking about. You're just going to have to know how to do that. Now that's for full stack jobs. What about front end jobs? Well, okay, still to this day, front end jobs are available. I think full stack's more, but you have to build something that works when you show it. That's why building a YouTube clone or something like that, while it's sort of functional, it doesn't really move the needle because it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It just shows you how it looks. And so while you could you could fake it or whatever, a good project will show you all the way to the back end. So even if you're a front end dev only, you got to learn enough back end stuff to be able to build a project out that can move the needle so you can get the job that you want. Something that works.
So that's just
Didn't you hear, by the way, as of last week, Bobby, there's no front end jobs anymore.
Yeah, I know.
They took
them all.
ChatGPT's got them all. It's not even worth talking about. We have a video coming about. Actually, before we talk about this, we have a video coming out tomorrow. If you guys could all watch it, that'd be great. About ChatGPT, another ChatGPT video. Our thinkings evolve on ChatGPT, and we're constantly seeing things about ChatGPT. So we have another video coming out about our constant evolving thoughts on that kind of AI area and how it affects developers. So hopefully it's a good video.
We promise you, it doesn't. The title isn't ChatGPT Get Off My Lawn. It's not that video.
Can we retitle it? It's not out yet. I could retitle
so I'm out there waving at get off my lawn, you kids.
We need to make that video just so we can make the card with a picture of you waving some kids off the lawn, and they got little ChatGPT heads or something. That'd be great. So Rich Ray says, so my project that articulates the intricacies of VHS video standard isn't a good idea. He's saying this it's so niche that nobody's ever going to understand it.
So here's another note, Rich Raider. If you're interviewing a guy and you're showing your project and you get this from him, he's just like, let me look at that. Okay. You have lost right away. He needs to sit back and go, okay, that's cool. So how did you do this? That's the reaction you want. So if you're going to have to explain to them something really deep down and specific about how something works,
I know it's a joke, but it does make the point. It really does.
It's just not going to work, man. It's hard.
It really does. Let's see. Dimitar says with the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. What's a good resource courses for enterprise grade financial industry like? Hold on. Up again.
With Java? I don't know about Java. You just have to look. I think what you're going to have to do, Dimitri, is take a course in Java Spring Boot, okay, because that's probably in your area, and just do things like that. And then build a project after you know it, and something that you would think would resonate with financial industry.
Yeah,
so
I'm not familiar with one that has like a handhold style project with Java.
Very few have
the level. We know there's not a lot.
The way we do it. So like, we're going to build a bug tracker, we're going to build a blog, we're going to build Content Pro. That's the 3 projects that we're going to build in here. And they all have different reasons around what doing it. We also build a mortgage calculator. So you could start with what I have seen as a coding challenge for a company here in the US was building a mortgage calculator, group the mortgages together, and calculate a rate of return based on the group of mortgages. You know, and it had like stats on it and stuff like that. So if I had 30 mortgages in here, they all had varying rates, and then I would take all those payments in, and I would have a total, like an average of the interest rate or a total group interest rate, and I would calculate a rate of return on that, because this company was selling mortgages as a group security. Yeah, exactly. And so like, you know, so basically you're just summing them up and then showing some statistics about the mortgages. So that's something that you could do that would be pretty good in the enterprise. So I think it'd be pretty easy to do. So you would just group stuff together and sell them. So that's my idea.
And
right.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, here you go. Somebody, Cesar said, I built a bug tracker that got me my first full-time job, and that thing isn't even close to being perfect.
Here's what you want to.
That's interesting.
Yeah, Caesar is right. Okay, he's dead right on this. Here's what I tell students that are leaving Coder Foundry, or they're saying, hey, I don't have this feature working in the bug tracker yet. And what I will say is, when you're ready to go to market, take off the feature that you've not finished and hide it, and just show what you have at this point. You know, so like, never show a broken feature or a non-implemented feature in your thing. And so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to function and look great. You can mask all this by putting a great template on it, and then showing off the functions that you do have perfected, that you do have finished. Don't show the broken or half implemented features yet. Yeah. You know, and you don't even need to tell them I plan to do this. If they bring up, hey, what are you planning to do with project management? Here's my plans for that. You know, but again, here's what
it's in version 2.0.
Yeah, people also realize is that we're not building this project necessarily to sell it. We're building this project so that they will buy me as a developer to work on whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
So
we've been accused of like, your book tracker is never going to be as good as Jira.
Yeah.
Like, because that's not the point.
That's not the point. I'm not building a roadmap for this. I'm not going to go to Jira for it. You know, like, it's also cheaper than Jira if you want to buy it. You know, so
that's true. That's true.
So like, I do think that it's kind of funny that we have had students use their bug trackers at their work, you know, where they didn't have one. They're like, hey, can we use this when you get here? And like, yeah, if you hire me, yeah.
Because they always come back and they're always like, hey, can I use this? And we're like, you built it. Of course, you can do whatever you want with it.
It's yours.
Give them
a free enterprise
we don't
license.
Own that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. So Dylan wants to know, he has an app idea here. So Dylan says, what about a video game aggregator? I was thinking about building something very similar to the Movie Pro using the IGDB API.
Okay.
I'm guessing
so you would build something like a Steam clone that would show different video games on the front end, and like what's for sale and what's new and what's been released. And
I'm guessing more about being that it's like a video game aggregator. I'm guessing maybe it's more. I don't know actually. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's like a video game collecting app. Like I have these games. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe that's the. I don't know.
Here's the killer idea. And we've seen this app that I think is very useful, and same thing. Take the Movie Pro thing that we're doing, and then look at those streaming APIs behind it. And Kevin, you're gonna love this idea because you have this exact app on your phone.
I love this app. I love this app.
And it's not been around, but like show apps where are they located on which streaming service. So like, you know, you can show like okay, this movie appears on Netflix, this movie appears on here. And so then you can make something that's useful to someone. They're like, where can I see Seinfeld at right now? Where's that playing at? I'd like to go see Seinfeld tonight, you know? And then they can check off their episodes. They see the different streaming services and where these movies are located. And you can see those in the movie API database. Now, we didn't do it when we did it because it wasn't a thing 4 years ago, but like now it is. And I think if I was redoing that app, that's the app I would build with it. Because we take it from, let me just show you some stuff, and then let me give you something that's actually useful. So this is a reason I would avoid video game aggregator versus movie aggregator. Movies are more recognizable across the realm. And then if you meet someone that doesn't play video games, they have no idea what Destiny is or Elder Scroll or Elden Ring or Hogwarts. You know, they don't know what these games are. So it doesn't resonate with them. And so what I think is a movie, where can I watch a certain movie service based on an API? It's a better one. It takes you the same amount of effort to build it. It's just that it'll resonate better with the employer because they understand what a movie is. They may not understand what games are. As I walk around in my life, I'm 50 something now, you know, soon I'll be 50 something else. Very few people play video games, you know, and in their 50s, you know, I'm one of those few. You know, so if I was interviewing today, even though I play Destiny or whatever, and I might play Hogwarts when it comes out, if I was interviewing for a job, I'm not telling people that. I'm showing something that interests them as the employer, not what interests me. And that's what's wrong with build what you're passionate about, because you're not caring about your audience at all. You're just like, it's all about me. And I'm just going to build the app that I want. Well, unless you're Steve Jobs, doesn't work.
I think that advice obviously comes from the reason someone says build something you're passionate about is because they feel like if you don't build something you're passionate about, you'll just quit, right? Because it's like, because I'm not interested anymore. So it's like, I don't really like talking about bugs and bug tracker stuff because I'm not passionate about it. Therefore, I won't want to learn it and I won't follow through with the application.
Yeah,
that's
and this goes back to my common belief that most people in the tech influencer space aren't coders, because that wouldn't interest them. They tell you to build a project and they have all of the mechanics down of how to get a job in coding because they've watched enough video about how everyone's talking about it, but they lack specifics and detail because they're like, you know, I wouldn't spend like 6 weeks building a bug tracker. That's stupid. I don't want to do that. That's too much work.
Boring is what it's
boring. I'm just going to make 3 more YouTube videos. And so like, I think that is what you got to understand, the mentality of the person telling you the advice. So yeah, you should invest in your own career. And like we've had discussions with people like, well, I'm not building that. If I could build that, I would just start my own company. Okay, well, start your own company. Like, you know, but like I'm telling you, the skill's up here, whether you like it or not. It's not down here. And you can fight it all you want and say, I'm only going to invest this much. Remember, you're not investing time into the employer. You're investing time into you. And if that employer rejects your bug tracker, the next one might not, and you get a job. And so that's what we want you to think about is like the time spent learning is investment in you, not into like getting a job. That's why I see this bad advice is like, I'll never take a coding challenge ever again. You know, and I'm only going to win on my resume. And then we had juniors out there. It's like, I'm not taking a coding challenge ever. And they tell these employers that, and it's like, you're not getting a job, man. Like you have to like,
well, then there's the one guy that said, oh, then there's somebody that comes along that says like, I never took a coding interview and I got a job. And it's like, yeah, but we're not saying it's a never thing. We're just saying it's like, you have way less of a chance. You're 1 in 100. You're 1 in 1,000 maybe. Like that.
Another thing they don't understand is that these tech influencers lie. They've never actually interviewed for a tech job. They just tell you what they wouldn't do. Well, they're not going to do that. But they're not interviewing for the job to begin with. So they tell you that companies are mean if they quiz you, or companies are bad if they ask you to build something. Just remember, if they ask you to build something during the interview process, build that project, put it on your portfolio, show it to someone else the next one down. Even if you get turned down, you're like, I wasted all my time. No, you didn't. You invested in your skills, your ability to build things. And so we had one where someone was asked to build a recipe app and he got turned down and he was pissed off because he spent all this time building a recipe app. I'm like, dude, polish that sucker up, stick it back on the portfolio.
Exactly.
But you're right. He says, well, is it my app? They gave me the idea. Like, screw it. I mean, no,
you built it.
It's not. It's yours now, man.
You built
like,
it. It doesn't matter where the idea came from. You built it.
Like use that thing, man. So that's why we build one of the apps that we build now inside the full. It's not in the self-paced, it's in the in-person courses. We do build a recipe app now because certain employees ask that to be built. So on top of the other things that we build. So there's a lot of apps in our full-time course that we don't build on the self-paced course.
So Eric has a question. We've kind of talked about this. We've talked about some of the other business-focused APIs recommended. But weather API.
Pretty good. Bring something else to it. If you're going to do that, it's not bad. It's just been done quite a bit. What else can we do? We recommend if you're going to build a weather API, mash it up with music or something like that, or a background image where you're bringing in multiple
an extra
APIs.
feature.
Yeah, give it an extra feature. They will understand the API right off the bat, and they will understand the weather right off the bat, but bring some other flavor to it. That so go look at some weather apps out there and say, okay, that's a really nice feature. And this or any other business focused APIs I would recommend. Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned, there's crypto. There's all kinds of data sets out there. Like the movie's pretty good because it is in the pop culture space, but you could build something that's useful, like we said. And then, without having to pay it, I have to go look, but there's a lot of API sites out there where you can go find something that's pretty interesting, and then use something that's useful, that it does something. Most of the Pokédex we see are only listing apps. They just list the Pokemon,
and they
don't.
You search for a name and it pulls the.
Yeah, they don't. Like there's nothing to them. They don't do anything. So like it has to do something to make it worthwhile for someone to look at. So we saw a really nice several months ago crypto app that we liked, and we're not even crypto fans. I'm not.
It was good. That was good.
But like we thought it was really interesting to take that API and show the current price of crypto and map it over something else or something like that. So you could find a gold focused API or some kind of precious metals API that could show you could do something like that. There's stock market API.
Using a translator API.
You could definitely do that, man. Like, you can make a web app that translates real-time information,
I like that. Yep.
So that works pretty good. Typically, the reason you don't see that a lot is because they typically charge for that. To translate but if you can find it on Azure or Google, that gives you some free things for it, and it can translate English to French.
That's actually a good point. That's actually a good point. Like, obviously, not all APIs are free, so there could be some cost associated with some of them. Which if you're learning and you don't have a job and you don't have the money to do it, like you don't want to invest in that. But if you do, there is an opportunity to do more if you want to invest a little bit into it. Depends on what that cost's going to be.
Right. But basically, it's got to solve a business problem. Definitely, man, a translator app. Still to this day, it's amazing that technology exists. And you don't really see a convenient app in the marketplace where if you had your headset on, it could pick up the mic and read. You could hear what that was and translate English in your headset. And then you speak it back, and then it speaks out Spanish on your speakerphone. That would be kind of cool. I still think that app needs to be made, like the Star Trek Universal Translator.
Yeah. Or the the little babblefish from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I'm always amazed at Star Trek, when the Klingons come on, and like not only are they speaking Klingon, but they've also changed the mouth movements to match English. It's a pretty amazing technology what they have going on there in Star Trek. Like
amazing. Some visual thing that happens there too. Obviously, visual translation of some kind. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's very impressive. We're not there yet. We're close. I think ChatGPT will solve that for us in about the next week.
Yeah. Or so. Somehow it works when they're just on the planet too. So
you've got to suspend your beliefs for it to work. Okay, let's see what else we got. Lunchbox Laser says, for an entry-level developer job, should your portfolio project serve a simple function such as a mortgage calculator, or would you suggest something more fleshed out with multiple functions and UI? So we kind of talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, a little both. Yeah. Mortgage calc's great. It shouldn't be. If we're at Coder Foundry, you're taking our method. That's not our showcase. We do that. We're kind of like middle way through the course. We do that, but we're building something way more complicated at the end of the day. We build a bug tracker, a blog, a Contact Pro. We also have the unpublished recipe apps that we build. So we're going to build 4 of these things over our 12-week period. So, but if you can just get one of these and make that your showcase, you can have the other apps installed, but when you put it on your portfolio, make sure your showcase projects are highlighted. The smaller, less feature-rich applications are down below it. So I think you can have both, because you're gonna have to learn somewhere. You're gonna have to start somewhere. You got to start with a simple app somewhere.
Exactly. What do you think about this idea? I kind of like this idea. I know you've been chatting a lot in here, but I like this idea. So make an online quiz that slides over to the next page after answering each question, and at the end it guesses or generates a report based on your answers, and also renders it as a downloadable PDF. Okay. I like this. I like this because this is an app. This is a usable app. We use a quiz app in Foundry. It's part of our entry thing, and this kind of does this, right? It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I like this. It's a good app.
I think it works great,
and it works. This works for me too, from especially on the passive side for a person, because they're going to go take your quiz. They're going to go play with your quiz. They're going to go take it. It's interactive, which makes it interesting. I like that. I think it's a good idea.
Here's what I would recommend, though. If you're going to make a quiz app, which is great, make sure the quizzes aren't dumb.
Yes.
All right. And so
I was going to say the same thing. Don't make a Pokemon quiz.
Yeah. Which Pokemon is this? The
questions do matter to get past the kind of, you have to make it business focused still. Maybe even.
So what I would do is and this is me off the cuff, and you can disagree with me if you want, Debo, but I would probably take the 30 top C# questions and then make a C# interview quiz app.
Yeah, totally relevant.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
You got to think about your audience again too. Yeah.
I took your C# quiz. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I missed one. What about question 9? Are you sure that's right? Yeah, that's right.
You're like, I'm positive. It's right. I've triple checked it. He'll ask me about my quiz all the time. Yes. He asks me about question 12 all the time. If you've never taken our quiz, codefoundry.com/quiz, you can go take our entry quiz. You don't have to put in valid details there if you don't want to. If you do, somebody will contact you, but you don't have to. You can go take it. Come back next time and report your score. I'm interested. We have very few 100% still. I can't remember how many, but it's not a lot.
Okay.
Go take it.
I like it.
Let's see.
Ask some more questions here. Let's see what else we got.
What's Matt saying? Some content creators in this space say you need something unique. An e-commerce app isn't enough. Is that true? I have an e-commerce app with OAuth, Stripe, Redux, etc. Is that not enough?
If you had an e-commerce app with OAuth and you had Stripe built in, and that's good enough. Like, that's gonna win. That's a winner app. I mean, So this is what these content creators have never pitched a project to get an interview before. They feel like the only app you should build are the ones that you get, 1 million users on. Well, if you had 1 million users on an e-commerce app, you ain't interviewing
for the job.
Right. You're going to just run the company. So this is where they don't know how to interview for a tech job, because I think most of them aren't interviewing for tech jobs. They're running their content course. They're YouTubers. So, and when you're looking at us, and this is me, again, I feel like I'm being way too self-centered, but we are course creators and instructors that happen to be on YouTube. So YouTube isn't our full-time job. I mean, you see us here all the time. We do spend a lot of time on it, but our whole thing, the whole thought process that I'm in is what can I teach you to get you a job with? And that's kind of where my thought process comes from. And so when I talk to an employer, I'm like, so why did you turn down, Frank? Tell me about what you thought about him. And I'm trying to get the feedback from it. So I'm figuring out where students win, where students lose. And I'm telling you, man, just like that one guy says, I demoed Contact Pro and I got a job. And I'm like, I know, if people would just listen, it's not that hard. Just build the thing, show it to them. This app would win. I mean, especially if you had real data in it and it was a real e-commerce app and had it worked. I think you can put Stripe in a test mode where it doesn't actually take money.
Yeah, you can put down, you can.
Yeah, so no one's going to give you their credit card, I don't think. That's the only problem with it is how easy is it to demo, those kind of things. But you're going to have a really great checkout solution. You're going to have a really great product display solution. How do I lay it out? There's a lot of things going on in that would be really good. Don't listen to them. An e-commerce app is good. That's a good app, as long as it's real. So.
Did you change your name recently to this? Wasn't this? Okay, your name hasn't always been this on YouTube, has it? But,
I don't know. Alantonio.
I know. No, because I always made the joke that it was Alantonio because that's what I called him, but it was Alantino. Right? Am I losing my mind? You changed your branding too. I see that. I I'm gonna pull that up.
Alantino, Alantonio.
It says,
okay.
yeah, because I always, because we, just so you know, we have an Antonio on staff, so I always get the name
that's
confused.
Why I see it that way.
So,
yeah.
So yeah. So I always got confused with that. But he's changed his branding too. Look, I like it. It says, how important is knowing marketing as a dev?
So
like this question.
To get a job, it's very important. And which, if you've been to our self-paced course or our full-time course, you realize that in the very beginning of it, I talk about marketing as a dev. Like, this is the things that we need to do. And what most people fail to do is go back and look at that first day slideshow and go make sure that I'm doing these things. And I'll sum it up for you in case you don't want to buy the course. Like, number one, I think you need to have a portfolio that you can share with somebody. On that portfolio needs to be a bunch of projects. You need to go to LinkedIn and Twitter and follow people that could hire you. And then when they do hire you, get into their mentions in a positive light. In other words, don't be negative. Don't make fun of them. Don't tell them that they're stupid. You're not going to get hired if you're overly negative. Excuse me. If your current socials are negative, make a new profile, start over. This is me as a dev. Forget about the other one where you made fun of people at, So if you do all those things, then publish every site that you have. So you have at Foundry, we'll build 6 JavaScript projects, 3 C# projects. That's 9 projects. You're going to make 9 URLs, 9 new URLs plus your portfolio. That's 10 websites. In addition to that, every one of those needs to have a separate repo for each one. And then we link the repo to each project that we make. And then we build a logo and branding around the whole dev. And then we show it off that way. And that's how we go to market. And that's kind of what we do. And it's about a 45-minute slideshow that I talk about marketing as a dev. It's on self-paced courses it's in the full-time course as well. And so, yeah, you should know about it. But I tell you all the things that you need to do to be able to do this. And it makes sense. If you're in the mentions of a hiring manager and suddenly they're looking for a .NET dev person and they've looked at your stuff, they've read your article or whatever, and you're a .NET dev, they may give you a call out because that way they can avoid a recruiter fee. There's a lot of reasons. And they also like to hire people they know. And if you're positive with them, they feel like they know them. So we were talking to another creator the other day remember our call. And it's the second time we've talked to them in person in our life. And he goes, "Are we friends?" You remember that? And we're like, "Yeah, I think we are. We've been chatting on YouTube for 3 years now. Like, I feel like I know you, so, which we've never met in person, but we've had 2 video calls with them. So when you build a familiarity with someone that you don't know, they can feel like they know you and they trust you, and you're more likely to get the benefit of the doubt. So that's our purpose at Foundry, is to show you how to do some marketing in and around yourself to sell yourself into jobs. People that do this sometimes don't know what they're doing, and they don't understand how it works or why it works.
Yeah, they just instinctively do it.
Always get interviewed. And you don't realize that's what they're doing, and they don't even realize what they're doing. And so I boiled that down into here's the common things that you need to do. I hope that helps.
Okay, let's do a couple more here. We've got a couple minutes. Frank says, I think Frank said he was from Scotland. I think I saw that earlier. I think somebody said from Scotland. I think it was Frank.
Here's what I think about Copen.
About these.
No, not really.
I like using them as literally as what the name is like a sandbox, right? It's a good place to experiment with things, but it's difficult to showcase your things here, isn't it? That's
anything big is not going to fit into Copen anyway. So you can I have built some stuff in Copen before, but typically what I've ended up doing in my recent, and this is my opinion, all right, Frank, I just find it easier to build it via Visual Studio, stick the repo out in GitHub, and then publish the site and show somebody. I just think it's easier to do.
Difficult,
it's also way more professional in the way things are built out. It shows you know how to build these things out, how to get them published, how to use GitHub. Copen isn't really great for that. It's not a great UI.
For me, it's good for just messing with things. It's good to
But I found that I'd rather mess with it in VS Code.
Really?
That's just me.
Yeah.
And so when you're trying to get a job, and we do this at Foundry too, use the Pro Tools that you're going to use on the job when you're doing your learning, because that's what you're going to use. And that's why I have a lot of problems with a lot of these sites, course creator sites that use built-in browsers, code editors. It's but that's not the tool. You're never going to code that way. As much as VS Code wants you to run it inside the browser, it's only a code editor, never be a code runner. And so use the tools that you're going to use on the job when you're learning. It makes you transition easier into the job. And that's why I've pretty much abandoned CodePen. At first, I thought I could build some things in CodePen and just show them off, and it was a simple way. But then I just found myself, it's just easier to do it VS Code and trying to like get that window that's this big and move it around. And it's cool.
I've done very little things in it as kind of an amateur in this space. I've done little things in it where I've played with I've been like, oh, how did somebody do that? It was like a CSS gradient thing across a word, and I was like, that's cool. Like, how did that work? And I was like, I don't want to I don't want to do that. But I'm never going to use this as like in any other way than just for myself to figure out how it worked. I just wanted to see how it worked. I was just like, oh, okay, how does that bit of code, like, what does it do real quick if I copy it in here? And I just, okay, I see it now. That's cool. And I learned something from it. I didn't save it. I didn't do anything else with it. I just learned a little thing and moved on.
So let's talk about marketing. Could you build a lot of like CSS, JavaScript type key things and build a really good following on CodePen? You could. And you could get noticed that way. And that's another marketing effort. I would put that down on my list over building the projects and publishing them and doing that kind of stuff. I wouldn't put it high on the list. I don't think it has that much move in the industry. It's cool, but I just wouldn't use it as the way I distribute my code. Hope that helps, Frank.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Speaking about like putting this is actually a good segue into this. So Ben says, saw it from Recruiter the other day. I mean, it's going to vary, but I would say LinkedIn, Twitter activity is greater than GitHub. HR hiring managers, recruiters do not look at GitHub. Goes back to a point we were making earlier, but we were talking about that. But it's the same thing. Like, where do you put you can't do everything, right? So you've got to kind of weigh where you put your efforts. And LinkedIn's definitely a good place to.
So hopefully we still have people here listening. This is my super secret advice.
Not going to be secret anymore.
When you're selling people, and this is why I say work with recruiters. Recruiters aren't technical. If you show them a whiz-bang cool website, they are going to be impressed because they don't see it every day. And they're going to tend to evaluate you higher than the other person with just a resume. And that's what they're going to show to this employer. And they're like, hey, I just talked to Bobby the other day, Frank, I think he's a good fit for you. I really like his style or whatever. Check this out. He's got a portfolio. Look at this link. You're giving them something to sell. Yeah. But if you say, all my stuff is on GitHub, you can go run it if you like. A, they're not going to ever run it. Number two, they couldn't clone it if they wanted to. They don't know how to do it.
They don't have the technical ability.
Right. And even something simple, like, and I know this is true, like I've asked people, just download the zip and unzip it. And like, it goes right over their head. Like, it's like, you're like, what's a zip file? I've talked to people like that work in business. And like,
that sounds insane, but it's true.
File is?
Yeah. We take a lot of zip file we take a lot of basic underlying technology things in our field 100% for granted. You think about things like that, and you just like, and you think about that's very, very basic knowledge. But a recruiter doesn't have that knowledge. They just don't.
I mean,
some do.
Forget about sending them a clone link. They got to have some kind of software that can like clone it. And then download the repo in a zip file. They wouldn't know how to uncompress it and then get it in running. If it's anything not HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it's Java or C#. I mean, you gotta have specific tools to even run it to begin with. And so they just can't do it. I mean, like so there's no reason to push your GitHub links out there to a recruiter. You need them both. You can have published and GitHub right beside it if the dev manager wants to go look at your code. But I would say even this, man, the first iteration isn't going to be the look at code. They're like, I don't have time to do that. But if you give them a published site, you just might get them to click on it. And then if they're interested, they're like, well, let's see how you built it. Boom, go look at the code then.
More likely.
It's going to be the second iteration. It's not going to be the first one. The first one's going to be the published site. Yeah. For sure, Ben's right on that.
One little segue here into the last question here, but do you have an idea about how to land an interview? I have projects on my portfolio. What would be your best advice to Nokias here?
Number one, if you're not working with a recruiter, find 3 or 4 to work with, and then pitch your projects and your portfolio to them. Make sure you have a LinkedIn profile, especially in the US. I would say 80% or probably 100% of all recruiters are using LinkedIn to find people. If you're not on LinkedIn, you don't exist. We have a free LinkedIn course that you can go look at how to maximize this. It's on learn.coderfoundry. So, but just you need one. And then every time that you interview or reply for a job and you want to interview, you need to call that company directly. So like if you can't get a recruiter to work with you, then you need to behave one. We do this on a daily basis. We'll go out every 24 hours and look for junior C# dev jobs across the US. We make a list of those in the last 24 hours. That's our call list for the day. We're calling those companies directly and saying, hey man, we got some devs for you. We saw your job posting. You know, and do you want them to apply directly, or do you want me to just send you the links? That's what we do. What you can do if you don't have a recruiter working on your behalf is you call in there and you say, hey, I just applied for your dev role. I think I'm a fit. Here's 3 reasons why. How about I just send you my portfolio, maybe you can take a look and see if I'm a good good fit for an interview. That's what you do. And you just do that until you get an interview. You'll engineer interviews that way. Companies do use recruiters over half the time for all jobs posted, but if they could find one where they didn't have to pay a fee, that's fantastic. You know, so like if you can circumvent that process by not coming through a recruiter, that's in your benefit. Now, does that mean you shouldn't work with recruiters because they're charging fees? Absolutely not. They're going to look at all of these job postings coming out, so they need someone to help them do it. So it's better if you work with a recruiter, so you can do both. You can apply directly, work with recruiters, and you should be able to get an interview. Make sure your portfolio looks good, though, man. If your portfolio looks bad, it's going to be more detrimental than positive. So you need to get an honest assessment. Does this thing look good? And are my projects up to snuff?
Yep. There's a lot of myths around. There's a lot of myths around working with recruiters around like money and those kind of things, and where their commitment is and that kind of stuff. And it's like, just know that it 100% is worth doing. It won't cost you anything. If they do try and charge you something, it's a scam. Don't do that. Move on. There are lots and lots and lots of great recruiters out there. They only make money when you make money. The company pays them. You don't pay them. It's just like, don't listen to somebody that says don't work with recruiters because they ghosted them once. They're just bitter about it. Just definitely work with a recruiter. They will do the work for you. Exactly. They will chase up the prospects for you. Especially if you've got a good portfolio. Trust me, you're a literal walking dollar sign to a recruiter if you have a good portfolio, because they know they can make money getting you a job. It's win-win all round.
Give them something to pitch. It helps you when there's like, give me something to give them. You know, give me something to pitch. Yep, it is win-win all round. You also asked. I just saw you followed up in chat too, asking how to find one. Find them on LinkedIn. You can search for them there. LinkedIn. Also, just Google it in your area too. Just Google recruiting firms, IT recruiter in your area. Find the brand, find the names of those companies, and then go look on LinkedIn. Find those, and you'll find. I guarantee you, there's hundreds of them. Connect with them. And then you can find the recruiter in there. Yep. So, like, if you're in the U.S., you can look at Tech Systems, who we're partnered with. Tech Systems is a national recruiter that you can go out there. Cyber Coders is one that we use quite a bit. There's several of those are 2 names, but Tech Systems being super large, they work worldwide. So no matter what country in there, probably have a presence there.
Yep, and that is TEK Systems.
TEK Systems.
Cool. Okay, I reckon we're done. I think we're done.
All right. We've done. All right. We'll keep coding, build some cool projects. Don't build sucky projects, build good ones.
Exactly. A couple things. Tomorrow we have a new video coming out, another ChatGPT video. Please go watch it. Please go like it. Please leave us a comment if you think we're crazy about ChatGPT. Because our thoughts keep evolving on it, so we're going to continue making content as they do, because it is a slightly different take that we've made before. Yep. We're also working on, I know we kind of teased this last time, working on an additional tech podcast we're going to be doing, so that's coming out kind of soon.
Stay tuned. We've almost got that solidified.
We've kind of branded that and everything, and we have kind of our cast, I think, at this point. So we're super ready.
We're excited about that. So we'll see kind of when that comes out. So it's
going to be broader tech. It's not just going to be developer stuff. So anybody that's interested in, in AI and in VR and in flying cars and whatever we're talking about, iPhones,
whatever we're talking about,
consumer tech, whatever it is, that's going to be for you guys. So
and it'll be us plus 2 other guests. We'll announce them when we get there. And it should be cool. It'll be on all the podcast streams, all of them. So if you listen to podcasts on wherever you get your podcast from, it'll be out there, and then also be on
Apple.
YouTube.
That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
We'll be on Apple. Yeah, I know. It's kind of cool.
Cool for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll be back again. Watch video tomorrow. We're back again live next Thursday with more questions.
Keep coding, guys. See you later.
We'll catch you guys later.